Uber and Eric Holder versus Kasim Reed and racist fingerprints. Uber and Eric Holder versus Kasim Reed and racist fingerprints. Thank you for tuning in to Laurel with the Black Political Buzz Network. Uber, the ride-sharing program that has, captured the world's transportation needs. They have excelled at providing affordable transportation for billions of people, not millions, billions of people. There are currently now more than 1 million Uber drivers. There are currently now more than 1 million Uber drivers all over the world. Uber has basically replaced taxi cab services, which were so expensive and sometimes, in many cases, unsafe. Uber has provided jobs to more than 1 million drivers all over the world and still hiring more people every day. And the taxi cab unions, of course, they're angry because Uber is taking money out of their pockets, but Uber is providing a much better service than taxi cabs. I've used Uber and I loved it. I personally used the Uber service and I loved it. The rates are extremely affordable. The drivers were nice and professional and polite, and the cars I rode in were clean, and the drivers were driving safely. I love Uber. I never want to use taxi cabs again. And Uber is very fair in its hiring practices. Uber is extremely fair in its hiring practices. Now, initially when Uber launched its business, and Uber is basically using Silicon Valley to run its business. They don't have a local office in every state or every city or every country. They operate out of San Francisco, California, Silicon Valley. And their employees, the drivers, they use an app that was created by Uber. That Uber has patented. A patent app that you just download on your iPhone or your Samsung, and you and your clients, your customers, the passengers, they pay for the service online with their credit card, and bam, you have a transaction. The service is provided by the Uber drivers. The passengers rate the Uber drivers, and it's simple as that. A nice, clean, safe ride. And I love Uber. Thank God for this ingenious idea, Uber. Now, they have other competitors out there like rideshare, and then they have Lyft. But Uber, in my opinion, is number one. And I believe Uber is going to be number one for many years to come. Uber hires its drivers when drivers go online to submit an application, and then the driver applicants, they must consent to a federal and state background check. All Uber driver applicants must consent to a federal and state background check before they are hired. And Uber driver applicants, they must also consent to a driving record check. So Uber, before they hire their drivers, they conduct a federal background check, a multi-state background check, and a driving record background check to make sure that you're complying with the law. And you have to have a valid driver's license and valid automobile insurance. Active, valid automobile insurance, excuse me. So Uber is trying to, do what it takes to ensure that the passengers are safe. Uber is conducting, these background checks to make sure the passengers are safe. But apparently, for some people, like Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed, who is black, by the way, a black man, That's not enough. What Uber is doing to hire its drivers is apparently not enough for people like Kasim Reed. Kasim Reed wants Uber to also conduct fingerprint background checks. Now, everyone knows that the criminal justice system in America is rigged, it's racially biased, and the fingerprint database, it is a racist system. Let me explain. You can be arrested, and when you are arrested, your fingerprints are captured. They take your fingerprints at the police station whenever you are arrested. Those fingerprints can be on the books for 10 years, 20 years, and that case, that charge that you were arrested for, initially, could have been dismissed by a prosecutor many years after that. But in the fingerprint database, it will still show you as being arrested without listing the disposition of the charge. So in the fingerprint database, whenever a company runs a fingerprint background check, it'll show that you were arrested. It'll show when you were arrested and what you were charged with for the arrest. But then it won't show the case disposition. It won't show if that charge was dismissed, thrown out, whatever. But that employer, that presumptive employer, all they see is that you were arrested. And if you're black, that's all many employers look for. Oh, he was arrested, I can't hire him. She was arrested, I can't hire her. Many employers, they don't ask you to go to the courthouse and bring back a copy of a letter of disposition showing if that case was discharged, if it was dismissed, if you were convicted or what. No, they'll just see that you were arrested and don't want to hire you. And many companies still practice racist hiring practices. Many companies in America still use racist hiring practices, and they use that to screen out black applicants, to keep from hiring them. They'll say, well, she was arrested, he was arrested, without even having the applicant to bring them a copy of the disposition of the case to see if you were convicted or the charge was dismissed. So therefore, you won't get hired for that job that you need so desperately. So you'll remain unemployed. You remain unemployed instead of being hired. Well, Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed doesn't believe that Uber's hiring practices are enough. Even though Uber conducts a federal background check, a multi-state background check your driving record, they ensure you have proper driving documents like a valid driver's license and valid insurance for your automobile. They even check your employment history. Uber does all this. But Kasim Reed, the mayor of Atlanta, said that's not enough. And he still wants Uber to conduct fingerprint background checks when he knows Kasim Reed is a lawyer by trade. Kasim Reed is not just a mayor. He's not just a mayor of Atlanta. He's also a lawyer and attorney by trade. So he knows that the criminal justice system, the fingerprint database, he knows it's racist, it's biased. And he knows a lot of the information in the fingerprint database is outdated. It's incorrect. It's wrong. But still, he wants Uber to conduct fingerprints on its applicants, which will keep many black and Latinos out of work. So Eric Holder, the former DOJ Attorney General, the former U.S. Attorney General for the Department of Justice, because Loretta Lynch has taken Eric Holder's place in that area. So now Loretta Lynch is the U.S. Attorney General for the DOJ. Eric Holder has stepped in to support Uber. Eric Holder has stepped in to endorse Uber's practices, hiring practices. And Eric Holder penned a letter. Eric Holder penned an official letter to Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed. Eric Holder is a black man who supports Uber. Eric Holder penned a letter to another black man, the mayor of Atlanta, Kasim Reed, telling him, what you're doing is wrong. You're going to withhold and prohibit many applicants, black and Latinos, and other people in America who need jobs, who may have been arrested and have their fingerprints in a database. You're going to prohibit those people in America from becoming gainfully employed through a great employer like Uber, all because you want a fingerprint. But you know, the fingerprint database is outdated, is incorrect, and it's racially biased. It needs to be outlawed. The fingerprint database in America needs to be outlawed. Outlawed. Because if your employer is going to conduct an FBI or federal background check and a multi-state background check and check your references, etc., that's all you need. And Uber does not conduct credit checks. You know why? Because their drivers don't deal with cash. Uber drivers don't deal with cash. The passengers pay online with their credit card. They do not deal with, the passengers do not pay the Uber drivers at all. Unlike taxi cab drivers, Uber passengers don't pay their drivers. They pay online, and the money goes to the company, not to a driver's hands. So no driver has to deal with a customer's credit card or cash, which makes Uber a much safer system than taxi cab drivers. Because taxi cab drivers deal with cash, which makes them a target, which makes taxi cab drivers a target for robbers. Uber drivers don't deal with cash, so they're not a target for robbers. Yet, Kasim Reed still wants Uber to conduct an extra background check, the fingerprint system. So Eric Holder, as I stated, a few minutes ago, he penned a letter to Kasim Reed saying, hey, what are you doing? You're a black man. You know how the fingerprint system is in America. You know it's a racially biased system. You know it's not updated. You know it's not accurate. And you know that it's a hindrance to many people becoming gainfully employed. And Eric Holder supports Uber. Well, as of right now, Kasim Reed has yet to comment on the letter that he received from Eric Holder in support of Uber. Why would a black man like Kasim Reed prohibit the hiring of black and Latinos and other citizens from becoming gainfully employed, all because of a fingerprint background check? Is this something that Georgia legislators are pushing? I repeat, is this fingerprint, this racist fingerprint system, is this something that Georgia legislators are pushing, enforcing, Mayor Kasim Reed to enforce, to keep black people and Latinos from becoming Uber drivers? I think so. I think there are many lawmakers in the state of Georgia who are racist. Not all of them, but many of them who are racist, who are pushing Mayor Kasim Reed to enforce this fingerprint, background check. In addition to Uber's other background checks, including a federal background check and a multi-state one, etc. I think this fingerprint thing is nothing but a way for the state of Georgia to make more money and to keep black and Latinos from getting jobs, because those Uber job applicants, they'll have to pay for their own fingerprint background check, which puts more money in the hands of the state of Georgia and will prohibit many applicants from being hired and gainfully employed. So as of right now, Kasim Reed has not responded to Eric Holder's letter. I hope that Kasim Reed will reconsider. I hope he'll reconsider and realize this is racist and it's wrong, and people need jobs, and Uber is providing a great service, a top-notch service, which keeps passengers safe and people love it. I hope Kasim Reed is not being sold out to the taxi cab unions. We're going to stay tuned on this story. I'll keep you abreast. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great day. Goodbye.